The winds of change may seem strange, floating me into a different range. Can you feel the lanes changing? We're playing a new game. How can you stay sane in this environment? Feeling new pressures in this climate. It's never felt so violent, struggling to describe it. It's not blowing my ears out or tearing the house down. It's hard to hear with so many smells. We build our own hell. Why do we fight so it could prevail? See tail down to guide you too. Can you see the residue? Feel it heal you. Feel you for you. Feel it consume. Feel we're not doomed. Welcome to Rain's Lane, the digital street where art and culture meet on the same page. I am your host around the web today, Sinai Rain, and today we're talking about poetry, power, and possibilities. I'm not someone who's particularly used to writing in this format. I usually don't ponder long paragraphs of prose, instead, I lament over poems. Similes excite me, metaphors force a giddy feeling inside my belly. I'm on a journey of reflection, though, so instead of choosing, I'll blend a medium or two. This is an essay reflecting on the values of poetry, relating to the personal, political, and practical cultural impact. Poetry never came to me quickly. It never revealed itself to me at all, really. I guess you could say it was woven into the DNA of my body. My mother, a poet in youth, father, a rapper in young adulthood, both at some point writers in their own right. Though they never taught me to hone my craft or sharpen my sword, I'd been introduced to poetry long before, in songs, lullabies, the phrases on my walls. My cousin, a poet, wrote one for me when I was born. I remember memorizing my favorite nursery rhymes, gospel songs, hymns, and lines. Every part of poetry in my life were intertwined. That's how I think, write, and rhyme. I didn't know what a novel in verse could look like, though, until I read Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson, which is on my fifth grade shelf. I have two sisters, and I have a shelf of books that I loved that I passed down to them. So, yes. This book cemented something in me, the knowledge of pure possibility. The hysteric nature of fascist fright will tell you to demonize newness where it stands. I, on the other hand, will embrace newness with open arms, alarming everyone and everything in my path as I understand this complex nature of this feeling of stagnancy. Even in youth, I aim to breach a sense of understanding. With urgency, I realize the fight of the past won't wither until we write it away. First through our minds, then plastered on the page, next through action despite the old ways. I hope poetry will reveal what needed to be healed. I learned that poetry was such an expressive medium. I learned that poetry was such an expressive medium. I can wield my words, express the deepest darkness in the finest ease. Like painting, it has the power to release. In middle school, I'd begun to read more poetry, to consume more novels in verse, and delight in finding favorite authors to research. I read Full Cicada Moon when I was in sixth grade. Having been bullied 2 years prior, I related thoroughly to the main character, Mimi. Seeing yourself in the fullness of the character by celebrating difference and complexity is one of the values of literature. To explain a human interaction, to explain and to expand upon how humans become themselves. It's such a value. And to do it with poetry, to make it so readable and so functional to a sixth grader, to a seventh grader, is so enriching, honestly. It makes you sway in the seat when you find the beat in your mind or on the tip of your tongue. It changes the feeling in your heartbeat drums. That same year, I picked up the Poet-X. Though I skimmed it, I didn't finish it. Not until a couple years later. And when I tell you, when I finally read this book, my heart was bouncing out of the pages of this one. This is not a book review though. I am planning a topic about this, planning a video essay about this topic. This is simply an essay to get my thoughts moving towards a resolution, a response to inaction that only art can mold into inspiration. Poetry and adaptive media, like novels and verse, have shaped me into the person I am becoming. And because of this becoming and this ever shaping, this evolving nature of life and living, I've asked myself some questions. What could a poet do, given the tools, mediums, message, and platform to engage in radical imagination, to inspire radicals to imagine? I was not raised in an echo chamber of literary imagination, though I was given the tools needed to seek out media that I am drawn to. Thanks to regressive fascist policies poisoning areas of this country, books like Brown Girl Dreaming are being taken off the shelves. Girls like me might not get the opportunity to engage in media the way that I was able to. Being a young writer in this time started like a fantasy and emerged into a responsibility. What can I do with the knowledge and resources that I've been given in this time, in this day and age, to spread awareness about the heinous suppression of our literature, technologies, and art? Though critical thinking skills were not the focus of my education, I learned to critically engage through literature and life experience. If I'm sharing a personal story or diving into the minds of a character, book, artist, etc., Rain's Lane, my personal website, is where all those things go first. I want to create a dialogue about expression across my digital platforms. Thank you for joining me in my journey of transforming rain. Transformation of thought is a detailed process that requires diligence and expression. To further support my creative endeavors, you can buy Volume 1 or donate where you please. Thank you. Study as we go, half a world away. Night drifts into day as dawn paints the skies. The birds arise. What a joyful way. Steady as we go, we are who we know. The mind shifts into ease as the fear erased. Half a world away, children see the sky. Zenani flies to terrorize the world. TV shows remain the last to speak the truth. Though they hoot about looting, they never yell about oppression. Yet steady they will roam, glorifying the horrifying with their lenses aimed on leaders, not the murdered. Only polished pixels framed to mesmerize our eyes. Study as we go, the truth between the lies, something they can't magnetize, fragments into collected lives. Midnight, sleeping through storms as melatonin soothes my thinking, Maladine seized, trying to feed families. As a wind erupts into warmth, cardinals and orange-throated sparrows scream a shattering arrow, echoing loudly a fiery voice of suffering. Who are we? Blubbering cymbals laundering over missiles. The streets may seem peaceful, but all sight is not equal. The unrest rests in the wind. See her currents blowing the trees, feel her power in divine mystery. The streets are burning, as the fascists are learning the people's position. To resist their mission won't stay quiet. ICE so violent, cops complicit. They quote quotas and cop codes all the way to GEOs, Gestapos. The shelter doesn't have enough space to intake toys and clothes. My heart cracked open as the fires rose to LA. I pray for peace till the end of days. Chapter 2: Power and People. Poetry can never be removed from the story of liberation. If you illuminate the truth, you will see how deeply interwoven poetry is with power. Power distorts, poetry reveals. Recently, I was gifted A Small Place by Jamaica Kincaid. This essay, written poetically, documents the mind of her people by guiding us through Antigua as though we operate the mind of the oppressor. She shares her small place and magnitude of grace and sharpness. The passage reads, not very long after the earthquake, Antigua got its independence from Britain, making Antigua a state in its own right. And Antiguans are so proud of this that each year, to mark the day, they go to church and thank God, a British God, for this. But you should not think of the confusion that must lie in all of that. And you must not think of the damaged library. You have brought your own books with you, and among them is one of those new books about economic history. One of these books explaining how the West, meaning Europe and North America, after its conquest and settlement by Europeans, got rich. The West got rich, not from the free in this case meaning got for nothing and then undervalued labor for generations of the people like me, walking around you in Antigua, but from the ingenuity of small shopkeepers in Sheffield and Yorkshire and Lancaster or whatever. And what a great part in the invention of the wristwatch played in it. For there was nothing noble-minded men could not do when they discovered they could slap time on their wrist just like that. Isn't that the last straw? For not only did we have to suffer that unspeakableness of slavery, but the satisfaction to be had from "we made you bastards rich" is taken away too. And so you needn't let that slightly funny feeling you have from time to time about exploitation, oppression, domination develop into full-fledged unease, discomfort. You could ruin your holiday. They are not responsible for what you have. You owe them nothing. In fact, you do them a big favor. And you can provide 100 examples. For here you are now passing by Government House, and here you are now passing by the Prime Minister's office and the Parliament building, and overlooking these with a splendid view of St. John's Harbor, the American Embassy. If it were not for you, they would not have the Government House and Prime Minister's office and Parliament building and embassy of a powerful country. Now you are passing a mansion, an extraordinary house painted the color of an old cow dung, with more aerials and antennas attached to it than you will even see at the American Embassy. The people who live in this house are a merchant family who came to Antigua from the Middle East less than 20 years ago. When this family first came to Antigua, they sold dry goods door to door from suitcases they carried on their backs. Now they own a lot of Antigua. They regularly lend money to the government. They build enormous for Antigua, ugly for Antigua, concrete buildings in Antigua's capital, St. John's, which the government then rents for huge sums of money. A member of their family is the Antiguan ambassador to Syria. Antigans hate them. Not far from this mansion is another mansion, the home of a drug smuggler. Everybody knows he's a drug smuggler. And if, just as you were driving by, he stepped out of his door, your driver might point him out to you as the notorious person that he is. For this drug smuggler is so rich, people say he buys cars in tens. 10 of this one, 10 of that one, and that he bought a house, another mansion, near Five Islands, contents included, with cash he carried in a suitcase. 350 American dollars, and to the surprise of the seller of this house, lots of American dollars were left over. Overlooking the drug smuggler's mansion is yet another mansion, and leading up to it is the best paved road in all Antigua, even better than the road that was paved for the Queen's visit in 1985. When the Queen came, all the roads that she would travel on were paved anew, so the Queen might have left so the Queen might have been left with the impression that riding in a car in Antigua was a pleasant experience. In this mansion lives a woman sophisticated people in Antigua call Iveta. She is a notorious woman. She's young and beautiful and the girlfriend of someone very high up in the government. Iveta is notorious because her relationship with this high government official has made her the owner of boutiques and property and given her a say in cabinet meetings and all sorts of other privileges such a relationship would bring a beautiful young woman. Oh, but by now you're tired of all this looking and you want to reach your destination, your hotel, your room. You long to refresh yourself. You long to eat some nice lobster, some nice local food. You take a bath, you brush your teeth, you get dressed again. As you get dressed, you look out the window. That water, have you ever seen anything like it? Far out to the horizon, the color of the water is navy blue. Near, the water is the color of the North American sky. From here to the shore, the water is pale, silvery, clear, so clear that you can see its pinkish white sand bottom. Oh, what beauty! Oh, what beauty! Have you ever seen anything like this? You are so excited. You breathe shallow. You breathe deep. You see a beautiful boy skimming the water, godlike on a windsurfer. You see an incredibly unattractive, fat, pastry-like fleshed woman enjoying a walk on the beautiful sand, with a man, an incredibly unattractive, fat, pastry-like fleshed man. You see the pleasure they're taking in their surroundings. Still standing, looking out the window, you see yourself lying on the beach, enjoying the amazing sun. A sun so powerful and yet so beautiful, the way it is always overhead, as if on permanent guard, ready to stamp out any cloud that dares to darken in so empty rain on you and ruin your holiday. A sun that is your personal friend. You see yourself taking a walk on that beach. You see yourself meeting new people, only they are new in a very limited way, for they are people just like you. You see yourself eating some delicious locally grown food. You see yourself. You see yourself. You must not wonder what exactly happened to the contents of your laboratory when you flushed it. You must not wonder where your bath water went when you pulled out the stopper. You must not wonder what happened when you brushed your teeth. Oh, it might all end up in the water you're thinking of taking a swim in. The contents of your laboratory might, just might, graze gently against your ankle as you wade carefree in the water. For you see, in Antigua, there is no proper sewage disposal system. But the Caribbean Sea is very big, and the Atlantic Ocean is even bigger. It would amaze even you to know the number of black slaves this ocean has swallowed up. When you sit down to eat your delicious meal, it's better that you don't know that most of what you are eating came off of a plane from Miami. And before it got on a plane in Miami, who knows where it came from? A good guess is it came from a place like Antigua first, where it was grown dirt cheap, went to Miami, and came back. There's a world of something in this, but I can't go into it right now. They thought they were God as they filled the sea with bodies. They regulated our bodies. They said they were God when they came to destroy our destiny. They wrote they were God when by law they owned the rain. You cannot collect the manna from up high, for the money men say they are God, and we obey. We comply in accordance to their whimsy. We sever our understanding on their sword of power every hour. We don't stand together. One of my favorite books, written by Olufemi Otaiwo, oof, Elite Capture, oops, upside down and backwards, what? Elite Capture, and it's mirrored. Elite Capture, How the Powerful Took Over Identity Politics and Everything Else. Um, this book digs into power extensively, saying it's bigger than conversation. Whole territories of social life have been captured by those at the top. This capture is built into the rules of engagement that result from colonial ownership. Capital accumulation is highly game-like in the clarity of its incentive structure, and its elite players have for several centuries been transforming the world so that more and more aspects of it become playable by the rules of capitalism. Most people end up playing along pre-force because the world, as we find it at the level of individual interactions, is an environment stocked with choices, penalties, and potential rewards that make sense in capitalist terms. Whether it is a human manager or an driving ratings algorithm, ugh, telling the workers they should smile at the customer, the smile becomes an action that it now makes sense for them to take, because playing along is the safest strategy, obtaining her objective, a paycheck. Whether an oil industry regulator accepts a bribe to look the other way or astuciously builds a fine and fee structure, they know it's bound to fail. They too are playing along. Whether a student omits their own history from the paper because they believe the professor who said that black people have no important history, or because they simply observe that the successful students always pick topics from white history, or because they can't find any books on black history, they too are playing for the short-term win for themselves, following rules set down by someone else. The game objective may be viscerally and irreducibly personal for each player's self-esteem, security, life itself, but the rules and the context that determine which actions make sense have been created by others who benefit from the outcome of those rigged systems. The so-called common ground has been captured in the same way that oil regulatory infrastructures have. It is, after all, just public information, things we treat as true together. We use public information to do things, to communicate, yes, but to also do everything else that we do together. As philosophers Christy Dodson and Sarai Alia explain, it's a structure not so much of beliefs, but of common epistemic resources and affordances, stuff built into the social environment that we can use to act together. We act as if the information in the common ground is true, in the main for the same reason, in the main, for much the same reason that we walk on sidewalks. It's easiest, and that's what it's there for. Understood this way, common ground is just the informational aspect of the social environment that we build and rebuild with words and deeds. And when we successfully challenge the common ground, we are changing the social environment itself. Unlike so many heavily regulated mediums, poetry in particular is more accessible. I've written poems on my phone, on napkins, scraps of paper, forgotten homework assignments, and so on. Poetry is found in caves, in houses that have been bombed, under the rubble, in books half burned, in fireplaces. In my girlhood, poetry was power, power to reshape a story, to reinvigorate minds, power to take back my own narrative. And like so many of my favorite poets, poetry allowed me to reshape myself in all my multitudes. In Jamaica Kincaid's example, renaming herself, and in Rafit Alayir's case, standing his ground while resisting colonial domination. Using creative writing, both Rafit and Jamaica utilize their skills to reframe their stories, expanding readers' minds using their own experiences, even if those experiences have to do with colonization and genocide. The vulnerability it takes to create from a place of pain is deeply rooted in humanity. Poetry creates bridges, and paired with music shapes worlds. As Audre Lorde said, this is poetry, as Audre Lorde said in Sister Outsider, it's poetry as illumination. For it is through the poem that we give name to those ideas which are, until the poem, nameless and formless, about to be birthed, but already felt. My favorite musician is Nina Simone. I doubt you need an introduction. She had the voice of generations. She passed in 2005 and is survived by her outstanding legacy. Civil rights icon, poet, pianist, extraordinaire artist, archivist, singer-songwriter, activist, Nina Simone. She wrote Mississippi Goddamn after hearing about the multiple acts of terrorism in this country, including the bombing of the four girls that were murdered in the 16th at were murdered on September 15th, 1963, in the 16th Baptist Church bombing in Birmingham, Alabama. My grandmother was alive, my great-grandmother too. My great-grandmother actually lived a couple miles down and knew one of the girls that were killed. It shook their worlds. Miss Simone documented that atrocity like a responsible archivist and artist would. In a time of vitriol, Nina Simone chose virtue as her vengeance. A song to last generations, a cry out for the chorus of children shot every day, bombed every day, lynched every day. We are scared about censorship in this time of digital supremacy and artificial technology. But AI, ancestral intelligence, has taught us so much more about possibilities. When we tap into the history, secure passages left behind by poets and artists like Miss Simone, we are confronted by the cry of truth being spoken through time. There's so much more than this, and we all know it. We've built the more. We, we've always known it. We've built the more in our minds, through space, through time, in world making and movie making, in time shifting. We have dedicated ourselves to exemplary forms of expression. It worked. But the inspiration doesn't stay in a song. It stretches across the streets and weaves through satellites and connects itself to connectivity. Chapter 4, Connection. I believe I'm connected to the earth. I believe I'm connected to the earth. My head feels its wrath. I scream as the sky cries in agony. What a wondrous way of life. I see the shifting moon. I feel emotional. Even the cosmos are under control. It's all going to plan. The contents of this mysterious shift? I don't know. For the wailing wind and pelting rain go hand in hand. The birds fly. God holds them up by their wings. Cicadas spend majority of their life waiting for the perfect time. Everything's going to plan. The storms may rage and people will crack the cages they've been placed in. The only true is change, systems always slide into disarray. Permanence is a fictitious slight to the human mind. Why linger at the lackluster silo of eternity? Phil, you're one, you and me, to the body of humanity. When you bleed, I cry. When the bombs burn your bodies, I wonder why I wasn't placed where you were. When all the trees die dismembered by weapons of mass destruction, I wonder why the place I went to have luncheon profits from your home being blown to bits. Do you see how we're connected? What harms your environment in turn harms my environment. It doesn't matter how much institutions spend trying to weigh down the pockets of environmental scientists to lie about what kind of crises we're in. Politicians, lords over profits, they hoard the contents of their thievery, putting bodies of black and brown people on the line. Systems cycle until forced to break. There's no need to recycle their abuse of structural violence, who I wish wouldn't wake. Some things must die. Systems that coerce and control people's lives aren't the ones we're willing to reshape. I know I'm connected to the earth, and I know I'm connected to the earth. My body feels that chill. Moments before any downpour, I feel the atmosphere will gear me up for environmental change. The earth in our connection is interchangeably strange, guiding me, leading me directly on my way without my input or say. God leads a frightful into bountiful fields, showing the power that only God wields. I see it every day. Witnessing the restlessness of depressed society whilst presently being in the happenings of my own body, the dichotomy haunts me. I feel I don't deserve the change. Why do I deserve to heal when many can't say the same? Morning every night I work to fight against my habits of disarray, the ones that rip me of connection, the one that lures me into fields of depression, the one that profits off of oppression. I work endlessly to rid myself of the violence I was born in. If I must die, you must live to tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings. Make it white with a long tail, so that a child, somewhere in Gaza, will looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad, who left in a blaze and bid no one farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself. Sees the kite, my kite be made, flying up above, and thinks for a moment an angel is there, bringing back love. If I must die, let it bring hope. Let it be a tale. Poetry is not meant to be a guillotine that would potentially cut off the head of the five-headed monster of oppression. No. Poetry is as poetry does. It acts as Elmer's glue, a binder sticking together words and residue to form some type of a connecting force. An explanation of expression that language often distorts. Poetry what erupts into warning, examines all crises and makes it manageable. Rhythm shapes so we can erode the form of language. Poetry molds a message into bridges of understanding. We can connect in a multitude of ways. Art is the ultimate connecting force. Recently, I've been making a ton of art, not the ones on my wall, but recently I have, and learning new skills. I've been envisioning a world where our creativity increases and expedites our collective liberation. In this time of tariffs, Trump, and turmoil worldwide, evil fascism is revealing the souls of us all. We must engage in art and truth and justice. When listening to Democracy at Work, Economic Update, Unlearning Market Idolatry, things have never been so clear. They profit off our pain. Let's see what's left to gain. Andre Lord's poetry is not a luxury. It encourages me exceptionally, considerably, every time, every time. I would constantly reread Sister Outsider and read that essay in particular. In poetry, it crafts a liminal space built to cross boundaries to create new meaning of expression. Um, Sometimes we drug ourselves with dreams of new ideas. The head will save us, the brain alone will set us free. But there are no new ideas still waiting in the wings to save us as women, as human. There are only old and forgotten ones, new combinations, explanations, and recognitions from within ourselves, along with the renewed courage to try them out. And we must constantly encourage ourselves and each other to attempt the heretical actions that our dreams imply, and so many of our old ideas disparage. In the forefront of our move towards change, There is only poetry to hint at possibility made real. Our poems formulate the implications of ourselves, what we feel within and dare make real or bring action into accordance with, our fears, our hopes, our most cherished, our most cherished terrors. For within living structures defined by profit, by linear power, by institutional dehumanization, our feelings were not meant to survive. Kept around as unavoidable adjuncts or pleasant pastimes, feelings were expected to kneel to thought as women were expected to kneel to men. But women have survived as poets. There are no new pains. We have felt them all already. We have hidden that fact in the same place where we have hidden our power. They surface in our dreams. And it's in it's in it and it is our dreams that point that way to freedom. Those dreams are made realizable through our poems that give us the strength and courage to see, to feel, to speak, and to dare. If what we need to dream to move our spirits most deeply and directly toward and through promise is discounted as luxury, then we give up the core, the foundation of our power, our womanness. We give up the future of our worlds. For there are no new ideas. There are only new ways of making them felt, of examining what those ideas feel like being lived on Sunday morning at 7 a.m. after brunch during wild love, making war, giving birth, mourning our dead, while we suffer the old longings, battle the old warnings and fears of being silent and impotent and alone, while we taste new possibilities and strengths. I think we found a resolution. So after every essay, I'm going to ask the audience a question. I'm going to try to make a habit of answering with a poem. So my question is, what do you believe in? That's it. Not how does your belief relate to poems or poetry, not if your beliefs are worthy or valid or stable or factual to scientific reality. What do you believe in? It could be a list, it could be a poem, it could be a list poem, it could be a one sentence answer, it could be truth, it could be faith, it could be action, it could be drive, it could be radicalism, it could be anarchism, whatever you believe in. But Asada Shakur answered this question for me in her fantastic autobiography, time and time again. But the first poem, the absolute first poem, how she starts her book, is the most expansive and outstanding to me. And this is Affirmation by Asada Shakur. Mm. I believe in living. I believe in the spectrum of beta days and gamma people. I believe in sunshine, in windmills and waterfalls, tricycles and rocking chairs. And I believe that seeds grow into sprouts and sprouts grow into trees. I believe in the magic of the hands and in the wisdom of the eyes. I believe in rain and tears and in the blood of infinity. I believe in life. And I have seen the death parade march through the torso of the earth, sculpting mud bodies in its path. I have seen the destruction of the daylight and seen bloodthirsty maggots prayed to and saluted. I have seen the kind become the blind and the blind become the blind in one easy lesson. I have walked on cut glass. I have eaten crow and blunder bread, and I've breathed the stench of indifference. I breathe the stench of indifference. I've been locked by the lawless, handcuffed by the haters, gagged by the greedy, and if I know anything at all, it's that a wall. It's just a wall, and nothing more at all. It can be broken down. I believe in living. I believe in birth. I believe in the sweat of love and in the fire of truth. And I believe that a lost ship steered by seasick, tired sailors, can still be guided home to port. I'm so proud of myself. Oh my God. Um, well, thank you so much for staying and watching my first ever full-length video essay. If you made it through, post a comment for engagement. I'm grieving. I'm sure we all are grieving to save the world. It's in the air, everywhere, as Nina said. My great-grandmother passed away in the middle of me writing this essay, really in the beginning. I've been editing and working on this for months, but self-conscious and kind of um not ashamed, definitely not ashamed, but I've been turned into myself, hermiting so much that I hadn't realized the, you know, power of persuading yourself into doing an action, doing something. And mm, my grandmother, my grandma, I love my grandma Lois. And we talked often about politics and we talked often about poetry and I would read her I read her poems out of all these books and I've read her um essays and things in the past and I'm grateful that I get to be sharing this with the world in the way that I would share this with her. Because she was really the person that I would take this type of work to. Um and I would do it kind of the same way, so it's exciting. She told me to do something in my way, to do an action for towards liberation, for our people's liberation in my way. And this is part of it. Peace to the people. This is all my people alchemize. Did you know you could turn stories untold into visions that unfold into kaleidoscopes of clarity? My granny knew how to alchemize all the darkness into light. Her might could frighten even the toughest neighborhood titan. Sometimes she could stand, and when she could, she would tower in her stature, confident in holy power. She could reveal what needed to be healed. Prodding your psyche, her eyes twinkle excitingly once you follow her line of questioning to a point of understanding, her voice deliberately inviting all the mass to decompose into residue. What's freeing you from this storm? Who is guiding you home to port, parting the parting the pride of posturing flies, the pollinator investigator reinvigorates your spine. She dives into your mind before you have the time to weed through your words. As they are slipping into slop, your ears and arms and eyes fly away to focus on pictures and past time. My throat will emote a series of ums and ahs, trying to take up space, trying to pass time. She won't let you fly until you free yourself of your mind. Until next time, she'd say. Only after you kiss her goodbye. Allow yourself to be, she whispered sweetly to me. A remedy to free yourself from complexity. Allow yourself to be rooted like a ginormous oak tree. Stable, from seed to shaded animal sanctuary. Allow your mind to leap past limits, remembering the entropy to everything. Order will remain constant until disorder disrupts it. The wind will wind. You can take up space. Go at your own pace and allow yourself to be. Thank you.